whereby it would just keep unfolding into more more layers and more moods, and actually the whole intensity of
The screen fades to black. A single guitar note hums in the darkness, slow, ominous, alive. For decades, the world believed Jimmy Page was untouchable, a genius beyond criticism, the sonic architect behind LED Zeppelin, the man who turned distortion into mythology. But what if the legend was only half the truth? Behind the echo, behind the applause, lived grudges that never healed, rivalries so deep they were buried for decades, names Jimmy Page refused to speak out loud, until now. Before stadiums shook and songs like Stairway to Heaven became sacred, Page was fighting silent wars in dark clubs and recording studios, wars fueled by jealousy, betrayal, and fear of being replaced. Now, at 81, Jimmy Page finally reveals the 6 guitarists he hated the most, and the reasons will change how you see rock history forever. The first fracture formed with Eric Clapton. It began at the Marquee Club, in a moment so small it should have vanished. Someone joked that Page was catching up to Clapton. Laughter filled the room. Then Clapton smirked. He didn't speak, but the look said everything. By 1964, London worshipped Clapton. Fans painted "Clapton is God" on brick walls, and Page passed those words on his way to sessions, storing the insult in silence. In March 1965, Clapton stormed out of the Yardbirds, furious over their pop direction. Almost immediately, the band asked Page to replace him. He refused, but the offer alone ignited rage. In clubs around Richmond and Soho, Clapton branded Page a studio vulture, a man hiding behind tape machines. The rivalry turned toxic in 1967 at Olympic Studios when Clapton quietly pulled drummer Jim Gordon from Page's project without warning. That night, Page reportedly said, "Eric needs a new band every year because he drains the last one dry." The quote spread fast. In 1968, Clapton struck back during a BBC broadcast. Some players use effects when their fingers don't have much to say. Everyone knew the target. When Led Zeppelin conquered America in 1969, Clapton dismissed them as meaningless noise. Backstage at Madison Square Garden in 1975, the feud ended in silence. Clapton muttered, "Not tonight," and turned away. They never reconciled. Then came the man Page never wanted to face, Jimi Hendrix. In late September 1966, Hendrix stepped onto a London stage at the Scotch of St. James, and the city shifted overnight. Whispers followed him through every club. A week later at Bag of Nails, musicians stopped talking about Page and started talking about the American. One witness remembered Page muttering at the Cromwellian, "He shows up for a night and everyone forgets the last 10 years. The breaking point came on March 31st, 1967, at the Astoria Theater. Hendrix set his guitar on fire. Flames rose. The crowd erupted. Watching from the side, Page muttered, "Right, bonfires." Places like the Speakeasy fueled the comparisons endlessly. Fans demanded answers. Who was the real innovator? Hendrix tried respect. He asked Page about recording techniques. The replies were short, cold, final. According to Charles Shaw Murray, Page later described Hendrix's style as chaos disguised as brilliance. In early 1969, when asked about Hendrix being labeled the greatest guitarist alive, Page replied, "Some people like fireworks. I prefer music." When Hendrix died in September 1970, many expected Page to join the tributes. He didn't. His silence became his statement. Another rivalry was built on philosophy: Keith Richards. By the late 1960s, The Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin ruled London for completely different reasons, and the contrast created a quiet but lasting hostility. Keith Richards believed rock should stay raw and stripped to the bone, dirty chords, loose rhythm, no illusion. Jimmy Page, on the other hand, believed music should feel cinematic, layered, and immersive, built like a dark film unfolding in sound. From the beginning, their philosophies clashed, and constant comparisons only sharpened the divide. In 1969, inside the Speakeasy, a journalist asked Keith Richards what he thought of Dazed and Confused. Richards smirked before delivering the line that lit the fuse. He said, "Great player, shame he hides behind production." The comment moved through London's music scene at lightning speed. When it reached Page, his reply was cold and ruthless. Keith thinks 5 chords make him Chuck Berry. The feud was no longer private.
The tension escalated in 1973 during a private NME listening session where Richards dismissed Led Zeppelin as overbearing and excessive. The insult made its way back to Page, who fired back at Olympic Studios, accusing Richards of confusing minimalism with laziness. Their closest encounter came backstage at Madison Square Garden in 1975. Richards complained about bands stealing blues riffs and drowning them in echo. Page stood silent in the doorway. No words were exchanged. The silence cut deeper than any insult, and the feud never softened. Eddie Van Halen entered Jimmy Page's world like an earthquake that couldn't be ignored. When Van Halen's debut album dropped in 1978, it didn't just introduce a new guitarist, it announced a new era. Overnight, Eddie's explosive tapping technique became an obsession. Young players rewired their hands. Studios rewired their expectations. At Sunset Sound, engineers couldn't stop talking about one track in particular, Eruption. It wasn't just fast, it was fearless. And to Page, it sounded like the future rushing past him. For the first time in years, Page wasn't being discussed as the pinnacle. Guitar magazines crowned Eddie Van Halen the future of the instrument, splashing his smile across covers that once belonged to legends. In quiet corners of the Marquee Club, Page reportedly dismissed the phenomenon with a sharp line. "This isn't evolution, it's circus tricks." But beneath the sarcasm lived something more dangerous: fear. Not of Eddie as a person, but of what Eddie represented: replacement, obsolescence, time moving on. The moment that defined everything came in a Los Angeles studio. An assistant, trying to lighten the mood, played Eruption over the monitors. Page didn't argue, he didn't explain. He closed his guitar case, stood up, and walked out. As he left, he muttered, "I've had enough of bedroom gymnastics." It wasn't just an insult, it was surrender disguised as disdain. When Eddie Van Halen died in 2020, Page offered brief condolences and nothing more. The silence spoke louder than praise ever could. The final rivalry cut even closer because it was a mirror. Ritchie Blackmore. By 1970, Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin were locked in a cold war for dominance. Same stages, same headlines, same era, but completely different philosophies. Blackmore played like every note was a weapon, sharp, aggressive, confrontational. Page preferred mysticism, atmosphere, and controlled chaos. Each saw the other as a distortion of what guitar greatness should be. At Delane Lee Studios, someone joked that Blackmore had outgunned every guitarist in England. Page didn't laugh. He replied calmly, if he wants a sword fight, he should join the circus. The line wasn't playful, it was surgical. Blackmore, never subtle, struck back in a 1974 German radio interview, mocking Page's production-heavy sound. Strip away the echo, he implied, and the magic disappears. Their tension reached its peak at Musicland Studios in Munich. Blackmore walked in unexpectedly while Page was mixing. No greetings were exchanged. Page stood up, grabbed his coat, and left. "I'm not staying for costume rehearsals," he muttered. Everyone in the room understood. They were too alike: private, obsessive, unyielding.
Each saw in the other the parts of himself he refused to accept. Now, as history finally exposes the names Jimmy Page never forgave, one truth remains. Even legends bleed in silence, and the greatest battles in music are the ones never seen on stage. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more untold rock legends. Thanks for watching.